Well, good morning. How are you all today? Welcome to Integrative Preparedness. Are you prepared for the collapse? That's the question, and that's what I want to talk about today. You'd better be, because I think it's coming. And I think many of you do too. I think a lot of you realize that something is coming down the road and probably coming faster than we might have suspected. We don't know exactly what form it's going to take, but we're pretty sure it's going to get here. And I think it's coming. Uh, well, let me put it this way. I think it could be coming fairly soon. Okay, if you look, and most of you, I mean, if you're watching this channel, you're interested in preparedness, right? So you keep track of what's going on in the world. You know pretty much what the deal is. Seems like every day there's something new that comes up and gives us a bite, right? But if you have an understanding of how screwed up the world is, how screwed up it's been for so long, that there are powers behind the curtain that are pulling strings that we don't know anything about, and that they make our lives tenuous, then you understand the need, the importance of being prepared for pretty much anything that comes down the road. And that's what real preparedness is. It's not necessarily being prepared for this thing or that thing or the other thing. It's being prepared for anything and everything. That's total preparedness. I want to say something right here that there will be some who come on and say, and I haven't decided if I'm going to allow comments on this one or not. If you've been keeping up, you know that I pretty much stopped allowing comments because there are just too many trolls and too many people who don't know what they're talking about that will come on and make stupid statements. I don't like that because I want my viewers to be informed. And it's easy for someone who doesn't know what they're talking about to come on and make some stupid statement and mislead others. I want you all to be informed, and I want you to be ready. So what I want to say is, if I do allow comments to come on here, you might see one or two that will say, well, it's impossible to be totally prepared. That is totally false. Uh, that just means that they won't do what it takes to be totally prepared, and I hope you will. Now, total preparedness takes some time, it takes some money, I understand that. It takes some organization, it takes a lot of things to be totally prepared. But unless you are, you're going to at one point be at the mercy of outside forces, and you don't want to be there. That is the purpose of preparedness, to separate yourself from dependence on those outside systems over which you have little or no control, right? Okay, I'm going to talk about how to get there in just a second. But if we see the crumbling of our society, the crumbling of our country, the crumbling of our world, we have little doubt that a collapse is almost unavoidable. It has to come. At some point, the house of cards simply won't stand anymore, and those foundations won't support the junk that's being put on top of it, right? So when that's going to happen and why it's going to happen is impossible for any of us to know, but the idea and the assumption that it is going to happen is what gives us the impetus to prepare. If you watched, and I think I mentioned it a week or so ago, I might have just mentioned it, talked about it over on the Patreon channel, I'm not sure. But when Chris Wray, the so-called director of the so-called FBI, came on and said he was telling Congress, and of course it was an attempt to rejuvenate the reputation of the FBI that has been so sullied over recent years. He says, we've never seen so many red flags in the world. He was talking about terrorist attacks. That's certainly one of the dangers, and the reason, being that they have invited everyone across our southern border and have filled our country with people who don't have our best interests at heart. He says that they have never seen as many red flags even before 9/11. Well, there you go. He just admitted that they knew 9/11 was coming, right? But anyway, that'll probably get this video flagged. Who knows? But he says all the chatter, all the red flags, all this, all that. Well, of course, he is. There's always some truth in the con, right? He's using that to get more money out of Congress for the FBI. He's using that to elevate himself in front of the congressman. He's using that to give the FBI some cover after all the dirty businesses that have been exposed from them. But within that is truth. When you import thousands and tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of people into our country who hate us, you're going to have a problem. And we're starting to see little bits and pieces of that. Small crimes, small probably attacks, but that is going to ramp up, and I think we can expect that to ramp up big time as we come through this political season and as we approach the next presidential election. Add to that the increasing activity in the current solar cycle. We've been having, many solar flares, EMPs hitting our world, our planet. It's becoming more and more frequent. Now we've been missed by a couple of big ones. The ones that are arriving aren't the big ones; they're M-class. I just saw the other day, I might do something on this on the Patreon channel. I think expecting today a multiple cannibal solar flare, which means one catches up, eats another, and it could disrupt radio communications. Matter of fact, I'll say something about radio communications, emergency communications, and ham here in just a second. But that is, of course, the next possible scenario that could bring the collapse. What form the collapse takes, is it going to be a grid down situation? Is it going to be, whatever it is, and it could as easily be a cyber attack, and that's probably one of our central worries right now, a cyber attack of whatever, and I won't get into the details of that because I've covered that ad nauseum in previous videos. That's what my books were about. If you're not familiar with me, by the way, if you're fairly new to us, I'm the guy that wrote the Stone Moth series. And the Stone Moth series is 6 novels about the collapse of the grid and everything else as a result of a CME, a coronal mass ejection. But my first one came out in 2017. So I've been at this for a long time, and as I explained on a previous one, I've been involved in preparedness for over 50 years. So this is not new. And it's probably a good time for me to say that those people who say that total preparedness is impossible are only defining their own limitations. They won't put in the work. This is a complete plan, guide in 6 novels: The Reversion, the Revival, the Renewal, and Appeal to Heaven, the Blessings of Freedom, and Hostages to Fortune, on how to prepare for, survive, and rebuild after a complete collapse of everything. I'll tell you how to get them in a minute if you would like. But what form the collapse takes really doesn't matter. It could be a CME, it could be a HEMP, a high-altitude EMP, a nuclear-induced EMP over a certain section of the country. It could be a cyber attack. Doesn't matter what's going to bring it down. What matters is how you're going to deal with it. And how you're going to deal with it depends on how you prepare for it. Okay. There is a lot to prepare for these things. I occasionally will watch other channels, and I know that they will address some of these things to some extent. But very rarely do I see one address it to the extent it needs to be addressed. And most people don't have any concept of the results of a grid down situation. I know they read the books, they stay on the titillating level. Okay, it's exciting to read about this, exciting to talk about. Oh my gosh, there will be a 90% die-off in the affected area within the first 12 months. Well, yeah, probably so. I won't argue with that. That comes out of the EMP, the Federal EMP Commission. No reason to argue with that. I've studied this and I've thought about it for many, many years, and I'll agree with it. Could be higher. It's going to be higher in some areas. Going to be lower in other areas. But the idea that you return to essentially. And some people, you'll hear them say, it takes you back to the Stone Age. No, it doesn't. It takes you back to about 1840s, okay, pre-electricity. We don't necessarily, we lose the technology, but we don't lose the knowledge. And while a lot of the people who die off will be those who have the knowledge, some of them won't. But we will be in a pre-electronics, pre-electricity environment for many, many years. Many years. 10, 20, 30, could be, because we don't get it back until manufacturing has been reintroduced. Okay, and you think about what we rely on now technologically and understand what that takes. And what that takes is international cooperation. And after something like this, you're not getting international cooperation. I could go much farther into the whole what would happen, but I'm not going to do that. What I want you to understand is that collapse is very possibly imminent. And you need to do everything you can to be ready for it. The average person will not be ready for it. The average prepper will not be ready for it. And I just said a few videos ago, I don't use the word prepper in a positive connotation. I don't refer to myself as a prepper, nor those who take it seriously. I refer to them as PMPs, preparedness-minded person or people, because these are the people who make it a lifestyle, not a hobby, not just something on the side to titillate. It's not just something to get excited about a little bit and talk about, but actually make it their lifestyle, and that's what it takes. Now, I want to tell you something, and some of you may realize that I haven't been putting as much on YouTube as I used to, and I made a video about that, explaining that. I have gotten tired of all the silliness on YouTube, both the YouTube silliness and then the silliness that we find with trolls and to be honest, stupid questions and argumentative people. So I don't put very much stuff on YouTube anymore. I'm putting this on YouTube because I want to warn you, but I also want you to know how you can get more information and how you can become prepared better. In the last couple of weeks, I've put up 20 videos. Only 6 of them are available on YouTube. Only 6, okay, out of 20. It was over the last, I don't know, week and a half, something like that. I want to read you the ones that I have not made available on YouTube. These are only available on our Patreon channel. And the reason that I'm telling you this is I want to invite you to the Patreon channel. Those of you who are really interested in preparedness should be on our Patreon channel. Here, I'm gonna read you the ones that are not available on YouTube. Okay, preparing for the next generations, preparing for your next 20 years. Very, very important how you think about it. A tour of our cabin, developing your network. The Pickle Inspector, a story of when I was in DEA school. Separating from the system, parts 1 and 2. So important. This is vital. You have to separate from the system. That doesn't necessarily mean moving. It doesn't mean moving to, the Redoubt or the Ozarks or anything like that. You can separate yourself from the system while remaining where you are. But there's more to it than that. And right here, I know that we're going to get a comment from somebody. And this is why I don't allow comments on somebody that's free. You need to get out of the built-up areas. You need to get out of the cities. These people are simply regurgitating something that they've heard somebody else say. It makes them sound like, it makes them think they know what they're talking about when they don't. I wrote 6 books. There's nothing you can think of that I haven't thought of, okay? And I live in the suburbs, and there's a reason that I live in the suburbs. And I tell you exactly, I don't tell you on this channel, I tell you exactly where the best place to live, and it's not necessarily way out in the sticks, okay? For a whole lot of reasons. And see, this is not a crack by any means on those who choose to do so. I think it's a great life for those who want to, okay? For those who want to. But there are so many other considerations that the simple-minded in preparedness simply haven't thought of and won't entertain. Okay. So separating from the system, parts 1 and 2. You can do that anywhere. We are on our own. There's no government help coming. I get into the detail on that and the whys and the hows. Okay. Inside the monster, stories from my time undercover. Very important, very lessons that will help you. Separating from the system, part 3. I'm not going to tell you what those parts are. Well, Steve, tell us what the parts. See, that's another thing, is that people who aren't willing to spend $1 to find real information. I'm not really here for. Well, I won't say that I'm not here for them. I mean, I want to educate. I want to help people. I want to help you, but you have to help yourself too. And there's too many people in the preparedness world that want everything for free. And I'm not here for freeloaders anymore. I've given so much information over the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, you know, that I never gave away for free in any other venue. I don't give my books away for free. I don't give lectures for free. I don't train people in martial arts or in shooting or anything like that for free. Somehow the YouTube. And it's not the serious people. The serious people, do come over to Patreon. It's the sit on the couch, eating chips and Diet Coke people that want everything for free. Don't be a defensive prepper. That's another one that I put up. It's so important. I would say that 90% of preppers, not PMPs, preparedness-minded people, I would say that 90% of preppers are defensive preppers, and that's going to get them killed. At the very least, it's going to make their life not enjoyable, no matter what happens. Execution, the key to successful preparing. Yes, I don't mean executing people, but execution. People in groups, all about people in groups. This is in response to a couple of questions that I had from patrons, a couple of very, very thoughtful former military people who asked me my thoughts on people in groups. And in so much of my books, I explain, as I said, the whole series, and I'll show them to you again so you know what I'm talking about. The Stone Mountain series is all about the collapse of everything, a family who, as a result of their preparedness, was able to continue living a very good life, a high-quality life, and were able to help other people. And from that, developed a community and a very vital and thriving, a positive community. The guy who wrote the foreword for the first book, John Middleton, said it's an amazingly positive story about an amazingly negative situation. That's what it is. But this is what it has to be. It can't be doom and gloom. It has to be, horrible things happen, and here's what we're going to do about it. And here again, 90% of the preppers won't go that far, won't put in the work, won't do the thinking, and just I don't want to, give up. To be real honest, that's it. And not over on the Patreon channel. I tell you, you go on the Patreon channel, and I invite you over there. The link is down below. Okay, the link is down in the information section. If you are a serious person, please join us on the Patreon channel. You are going to get so much more. You'll never be sorry that you have come over there. And I just put up something on, did I put this? Oh yeah, it's coming up here. The next is, we put together a ham group over on Patreon. We have so many hams over there. And that's not something that I'm really at all knowledgeable about. But one of them asked, hey Steve, can you put together a group, a special group on the Patreon channel for all the hams? And so I did. I just put it up yesterday or the day before, I forget. And man, all of a sudden, all of our hams already are on there talking to each other, and it's a resource that then all of the other patrons, we're approaching, I think we're around like 900 people on the Patreon channel now. I mean, we're getting close to 1,000. The thing has just exploded over the last few months, and especially since I have stopped putting so much stuff on YouTube. But that's where the main integrative preparedness is headed on Patreon. And so that is really booming, and it's not just a place for the hams to talk together, but for the rest of us who don't know much about it, to go and learn a little bit about it. You know, I can see where having ham capabilities could be very important, regardless of what kind of collapse may come. And then this morning I just put up separating from the system, step 4. Okay. If you don't think the collapse is coming, you're not going to be ready for when it does come. Let me just put it that way. And there's no way to know when it's coming and in what form it will take. But wisdom dictates that we assume it's going to come sooner rather than later, and worse rather than better, right? We need to be prepared for everything, and you can be. That's what I want to say to the newer people especially. Don't believe these people who will come on and tell you it's too late now. It's not too late until it's too late. We don't know when it's going to be too late. And so if you haven't started much, I'd suggest you get started and get busy. Do what you can. Don't take yourself into debt to do it. There are a couple of situations that I might suggest you use some credit for. I'm going to talk about that over on the Patreon side, because when I say that, I get all the Dave Ramseyites come on and rail about debt and stuff like that. And to be real honest, I'll put this in here. Ramsey, poor people listen to Dave Ramsey. Okay, you know, if you have gotten yourself in horrible financial problems, listen to Dave Ramsey, get yourself out of it, but then start having a little more mature idea of finances. That's one of the most important parts of preparedness, your financial preparedness. But anyway, the collapse is coming. I have little doubt about that, and I don't think you have any doubt about it either. I think too many people talk about the fact that it is and don't do enough about it. I want you to do something about it. And to that end, I'll just remind you again, join us on the Patreon channel. Love to have you. You are going to find it so much different than YouTube. There are no trolls. There are no arguments. There are nobody starting fights or arguments, or everybody's helping everybody. It is truly an amazing community. I enjoy, and I've said this before, when I put up a video on YouTube and I allow comments to be on there, and I come back and I start to check the comments, I do it with an attitude of, ugh, gosh, what am I going to have to take off today? What kind of fool is going to be in there stirring up stuff and saying stupid things, okay? But one of the first things I do in the day is check Patreon, and I can't wait to read the comments on Patreon because they are positive, they are helpful, they are supportive of each other, and we have such smart people over there. I learn a lot, and we have such smart people. Please come join Patreon for your sake. You will never be sorry that you did, and the link again is down below. And make use of all of the community section, the chat section, everything like that. And then if you really want to be totally prepared and you haven't read the Stonemont series, this is your next step. Buy these. You can get them either through Amazon, and the link is down below, or you can get them directly from me and through our website, stonemont.us. You get them from me more slowly because I keep running out, and then I have to buy more, and I think it's great. Thank you all for ordering so many that I keep running out. I keep trying to catch up, but then more order and I run out again. I'm waiting for the next order to come in. But the reversion, the revival, the renewal, and appeal to heaven, the blessings of freedom, and hostages to fortune, the complete guide of how to prepare for, survive, and rebuild after a complete collapse of everything. I've had people tell me they've read through the whole series 5 times and still are learning things that they missed the first 4 times through. You will learn so much, and you'll love the story. It is a great story, and they're now available on audio. I forgot to mention that. You can get them on Amazon. You can get them paperback, Kindle, or audio, Audible, whatever. Okay. You just get them from me in paperback if you like, but you get them signed. And I love doing that because I love my relationship with my readers and with my viewers here with you all. So I'm going to decide whether I want to leave this open for comments on this one. I don't know whether I will or not. I'll see. If I if I decide to leave it open for comments and I see too many stupid ones, I'm going to shut them off because I just don't have time to keep coming back and checking to see if one more idiot has gotten in there to stir up a bunch of trouble. Okay, guys, I hope to see you over on Patreon. That's where you will get the best of what you need for preparing for the collapse, and it is coming. So remember that we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow, and get out there and do something. Do something every day. And if you're on Patreon, I'll see you tomorrow. If you're just on YouTube, I'll see you sometime. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.